He woke up gasping for air. It felt like someone was sitting on his chest, crushing his lungs. His hands were trembling, his heart was racing, and his thoughts were screaming, "You're dying. You're dying right now." It was 3:17 a.m. This was the third panic attack that week. His name was Ryan, and he was only 27 years old. A high-performing corporate analyst, a straight-A student in college, and a man who looked perfect from the outside. But inside, he was falling apart. Every day felt like running a marathon underwater. He'd sit in meetings smiling while inside his brain, a war was raging. Heart pounding, hands sweating, mind spinning. Anxiety had become his shadow, always there whispering worst-case scenarios into his ear. And the cruel part? No one knew. He was too ashamed to tell anyone. He thought, "People will think I'm weak." So he hid it, behind fake laughter, fake confidence, fake peace. Until one day, it all collapsed. Ryan was on stage giving a quarterly report to hundreds of executives. Halfway through his presentation, his vision started to blur. His chest tightened again. His throat closed. He couldn't breathe. He froze. In front of everyone, he dropped the microphone and ran out of the room. That day, his boss told him to take some time off. But Ryan didn't just take time off, he disappeared. For weeks, he locked himself in his apartment. He searched online for cures, read every article about anxiety, tried meditation videos, breathing techniques, even sleeping pills. Nothing worked. He'd lie in bed, sweating, staring at the ceiling, his mind screaming nonstop, "You'll never get better. You're broken. You'll live like this forever." Until one night, something shifted. He was scrolling through his old photos, smiling pictures from college, adventures with friends, and he suddenly whispered, "Where did that guy go?" That moment hit him like lightning. He realized anxiety hadn't destroyed him. He had surrendered to it. He wasn't fighting an external enemy, he was trapped inside his own head. And right then, he made a promise to himself. "If I can't escape my mind, I'll learn to reprogram it." That was day one of his transformation. Ryan began studying neuroscience, psychology, and cognitive behavioral therapy. Not as a patient, but as a scientist of his own mind. He learned that anxiety isn't a weakness. It's an overactive survival system. His brain wasn't broken, it was overprotecting him. He started observing his panic like data. When his heart raced, he'd whisper, "Thank you, brain. You think I'm in danger, but I'm safe." Every panic attack became an experiment, every fear, a lesson. He realized something powerful. Anxiety and energy feel the same inside the body. Only the story behind them is different. So he began changing the story. Before meetings, he stopped saying, "I'm anxious." Instead, he said, "I'm excited." The first few times felt fake. But slowly, his body began to believe it. He was rewiring his brain's narrative, turning fear into fuel. 3 months later, Ryan returned to work. But this time, something was different. He didn't hide his anxiety. He talked about it openly. He started a small group at his company called Mind Over Fear, where employees could discuss stress and panic without judgment. To his surprise, people flooded in. Executives, interns, even his boss, all sharing their stories. Ryan realized he wasn't alone. None of them were, and the more he shared, the lighter he felt. That's when the idea struck him. What if he could transform his personal battle into a movement? Ryan quit his job. Everyone thought he'd lost it. But in truth, he was finally finding himself. He started documenting his journey, every panic, every breakthrough, every small win. He called it Project PowerMind. His mission? To prove that anxiety doesn't destroy you, it wakes you up. He began creating workshops, teaching others how to reframe anxiety into energy. His first event had only 12 people. The next month, 50. Within a year, he was speaking in front of thousands. The same man who once ran off a stage mid-panic was now commanding arenas. But Ryan never called himself a guru. He called himself a translator, someone who helped people understand the language of their own fear. In one of his talks, he said something that went viral. Anxiety is energy without direction. Once you give it purpose, it becomes power. He taught people to stop fighting anxiety and start listening to it. He said, "When your body shakes before a challenge, it's not warning you to stop, it's preparing you to rise." That message changed thousands of lives. Emails poured in from people who said, "I finally understand my fear. I stopped running from panic, and it stopped chasing me." But behind all the success, Ryan stayed grounded. He still had anxious moments, before big talks, before interviews, before flights. But now, instead of resisting them, he welcomed them like old friends. He'd smile and say, "All right, adrenaline, let's do this." He even started an online community where people could share their anxiety victories. One woman wrote, "Because of Ryan, I gave my first presentation without running away." Another said, "I used to see my panic attacks as weakness. Now I see them as practice for courage." Ryan's story reached millions across the world. He became a best-selling author and mental health speaker, appearing on global stages, not as someone who defeated anxiety, but as someone who befriended it. During one TED Talk, he shared a moment that made the audience silent. He said, "If you told me years ago that I'd one day thank my anxiety, I'd laugh. But now I know, my panic attacks were never trying to kill me. They were trying to wake me up." And then, with tears in his eyes, he said, "I thought anxiety was my curse, but it became my compass." He paused, smiled, and added, "You don't need to erase your fear. You need to educate it." That single line changed everything. Today, Ryan's story is used in universities and therapy centers as a case study in emotional transformation. His message is simple, yet life-changing. Anxiety isn't your enemy. It's your body asking for your attention. Fear isn't failure. It's focus, waiting to be directed. You can't always silence the noise in your head, but you can change how you dance to it. Ryan often ends his speeches with this: "Power doesn't come from being fearless. It comes from walking into fear, shaking hands with it, and saying, 'Let's build something together.'" That's how he turned his panic into purpose, his anxiety into energy, his weakness into power. Moral of the story: your anxiety doesn't define you. It reminds you that you care deeply, that your mind is active, that you are alive. When you stop running from fear and start learning from it, it transforms into your greatest strength. Anxiety is not the enemy of peace. It's the path to understanding it. The moment you stop saying, "Why me?" and start saying, "What can this teach me?" you reclaim control of your life. Like Ryan, you can turn your chaos into clarity. You can turn your panic into power. And you can turn your mind into your greatest ally. So if this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe. Because someone out there might just need to hear that their anxiety isn't a death sentence. It's the beginning of their rebirth.